Okay, let's think about the price of deviance. Let me explain. To really be a change advocate, to try and improve change, whether it's a process, technology, a product, service, business model, whatever it might be, to really advocate for change and try things, to be an innovator, well, there's a price for that. I like to say there's a price for deviance. Anytime you're going to upset the apple cart and shake up the status quo, you better be ready to pay the price. Now, back in the day when I was in the ivory tower, I loved to try and find fun, little creative ways to get students to understand that idea. Because a lot of younger professionals go to work, they want to do the right thing, speak up, advocate for that which is all about change, innovation, creativity. I love that, but they really do have to learn to be sensitive first to how people are going to react, and it is not always supportive. So what I used to ask them to do, well, many things. I'll give you just one example. I used to give people, all the students in a class, little bottles of bubble solution and wands so that they could blow bubbles. Now, doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't that sound simple? Certainly doesn't sound dangerous or meaningfully disruptive in any way, does it? So I would give them the materials and I would tell them, here's the rules. Go out into the halls of the business school. Walk around the auditorium, the shared areas where people are sitting. Just blow bubbles. Don't say anything, don't explain it, just blow bubbles. Now, if you really want to impress me, I always told them, and one time some people took me up on this, here's what you do. Go a little further than just the hallways. Go knock on a classroom door or to walk in unannounced and just look at them and blow bubbles and then walk out. Sounds pretty innocent. I thought, but I knew what would happen. I knew the responses it would evoke, and I wanted them to experience that. And so I set them loose, and every time that same thing happened, they would come back at the designated time, or I would go round them up, and I would find out that everyone, all kinds of predictable responses. Everyone would look at them like they were strange, and they had to then talk about how it felt to be looked at as if they were deviant and weird and different and not doing the right thing, as if they were just strange. Why are people looking at me that way? You better get used to feeling that way if you care about innovation, I'm telling you. They used to also, probably half the time, tell me that the janitors were upset with them. We have awesome cleaning professionals who are going around the building trying to get surfaces clean and taking care of the floors. And here come my students doing what I thought was innocent, what they thought was innocent. They're blowing bubbles, and now bubbles are popping on trophy cases and on the floor. And they've got to clean up these spaces they just got done cleaning up, and they want to know who's responsible. And I've had more than one or two of those folks come talk to me after class. Not too happy. And once a couple students did take me up on the challenge. They did go into a couple classrooms. One in particular I'm thinking about, one night in particular, they walked into an economics professor's course and they stayed in for all of 4 or 5 seconds. They didn't say a word as instructed. They just smiled and went and blew some bubbles and smiled again, walked out. Well, the next morning I got a very lengthy email from the professor whose class was disturbed for 4, maybe 5 seconds by my students. This person went to great lengths to explain how offensive this behavior was, how inappropriate, how disruptive, how education means more than the silly things I like to do with my students, on and on and on. And I gleefully read that note, of course, to my students, and I said to them, do you realize that you did something low cost, no permanent damage? The risk was small. I mean, the impact really, come on, it's insignificant. You didn't do anything that was huge in any way, shape, or form, but at least for this one person, their response was huge. It was important. You thought you were doing something with a tiny risk at best, but how someone reacted surprised you, didn't it? It was huge, it was negative, it was not pleasant or helpful to your cause for blowing bubbles at all. Well, what's the lesson there? The lesson is that at work, believe me, if at school, in a safe environment, people are going to react like this to a couple little bubbles. Let me ask you a question. At work with real things on the line, how much more passionate and maybe unproductive towards you will their response be when you start advocating for real, meaningful change? That's a great thing to think about if you believe that you're going to go become a change agent. I got to tell you, that's a real risk. You will face it. And you remember to make a great business case, to include others and to anticipate some of those reactions, you have a very real fighting chance. But don't forget, when you blow bubbles, people might get upset. See you next time.